Why Sheikh Hamdan's mother never speaks about his marriage. She has never said a word. Not one public statement, not one interview, not one carefully worded comment released through the official channels that royal families use when they want to say something without fully saying it. In a family where image is everything, where every public gesture carries meaning, where silence itself is a form of communication. The complete and total silence of Sheikh Hamdan's mother on the subject of her son's marriage is not an accident. It is not modesty. It is not simply the private nature of a woman who prefers to stay out of the spotlight. It is something else. Something that people who have been following this family closely have noticed for a long time without ever fully being able to name. Today, we are going to name it. Princess Haya bint Al Hussein is one of the most remarkable women in the world. That is not an exaggeration. She is educated, accomplished, internationally recognized. A woman who has spent her life building a public presence that commands genuine respect far beyond the boundaries of the Gulf. She is not a woman who lacks opinions. She is not a woman who stays silent because she does not know what to say. She stays silent on this specific subject. Her son's marriage, the collapse of it, the women involved in his private life, because speaking would mean choosing, and every choice available to her in this situation costs something she is not willing to pay. To understand why she cannot speak, you have to understand the position she occupies. She is Hamdan's mother. That alone would make any comment about his marriage complicated. But she is also the wife of Sheikh Mohammed. And Sheikh Mohammed is the man who arranged the marriage in the first place. Who made the decision over his son's objections, over the feelings his son had already given to someone else, that Hamdan would marry Sheikha bint Sayyid Al Thani in June 2019. That marriage was Sheikh Mohammed's plan, his vision, his strategic decision for the future of the crown. And for Princess Haya to speak critically about what happened to that marriage, about how it fell apart, about the pain it caused, about the woman Hamdan truly loved who was pushed to the side, would be to speak critically about a decision her husband made. In a royal family, that is not something a wife does publicly, especially not on a subject this sensitive. But here is what makes her silence more complicated than simple loyalty to her husband. She knows the full story. That is the thing that people outside the palace do not fully appreciate. She knows about the woman Hamdan loved before the marriage. She knows about the years of feelings that her son carried into a union he never wanted. She knows about the child or the children that exist in the private part of Hamdan's life that the official story does not acknowledge. She knows about the collapse of the arranged marriage and the reasons behind it and the specific pain that her son has been carrying ever since. A mother always knows. And a mother who knows everything and is not allowed to say anything and carries a very particular kind of burden. There are people close to the family who say that Princess Haya was never fully comfortable with the arranged marriage from the beginning, not because she did not understand the political reasoning behind it. She understood it completely. She lives in that world. She knows better than almost anyone how royal families make decisions and why personal feelings are often the last consideration on the list. But understanding a decision and being at peace with what it costs your child are two entirely different things. She watched her son walk into a marriage that he had not chosen. She watched the toll it took. She watched the quiet way it unraveled. And she said nothing. Because saying something would have been impossible to do without breaking something else in the process. The relationship between Princess Haya and Sheikh Mohammed has its own complicated history that the world knows pieces of. A history that includes its own silences, its own distances, its own moments where the private reality of Tupal's lives diverged from the public image of a royal partnership. She has lived through her own version of what it means to exist inside a world where duty and personal feeling point in opposite directions. And that lived experience, that specific knowledge of what it costs a person to stay silent about something that matters, makes her silence on Hamdan's marriage feel less like a choice and more like the only option that did not make everything worse. Because if she spoke in defense of her son, if she acknowledged publicly that the arranged marriage was difficult, that Hamdan loved someone else, that the collapse of it was painful in ways that go beyond what the official story allows, she would be confirming a narrative that the palace has worked very hard to keep contained. She would be giving the world permission to ask questions that the family does not want answered publicly. She would be opening a door that has been kept shut with enormous effort and enormous cost. And the consequences of that would fall not just on her but on Hamdan, on his children, on the women involved, on everyone whose private life exists inside the story that the outside world is not supposed to have access to. So she stays silent. She appears at the events she is required to appear at. She presents the image that her position requires. She is gracious and composed, and every inch the woman the world expects her to be. And somewhere underneath all of that, she carries what every mother carries when she watches her child go through something hard and is not allowed to do the one thing that every instinct in her is telling her to do, which is simply to say, I see what happened to you. I know what it cost you. And I am sorry that the world I brought you into did not make more space for the persons you actually are. Hamdan has never publicly discussed his relationship with his mother in the context of his marriage. Of course, he has not. That is not how things work in his world. But the poems, always the poems, carry occasional traces of a tenderness that does not belong to romantic love, a softer kind of missing, a gratitude that exists alongside grief in a way that feels familial rather than romantic. Some people who read his work carefully have always felt that some of his poems were written not for a lover, but for the people who love him and cannot say so fully, including, perhaps, the woman who has known him longest, the one who saw all of it and said nothing, because saying nothing was the only way to protect him from the consequences of what saying something would have cost. She never speaks about his marriage, and in that silence, she says everything. Subscribe to this channel and hit the bell. Every week, I bring you deeper into the real story of Sheikh Hamdan and the people who love him, the truths that stay hidden, and the silences that say more than words ever could.